Greetings. My name is Angela Owens. I am the Assistant Director at A&M Commerce Career Development. The point of this video is because we had so many errors last week when we were doing this presentation. I really want you to get all the information and not just like rushed. I went ahead and made a video for this. I'm hoping to keep this to 20 minutes. But let's talk about the hiring process. When you're going through your job process, you have 4 stages really. You have the job search, you have the documents, the actual interview, and then your actual offer. So where do you look? When you start your job search, look at education, government, healthcare, law offices, and corporate offices. Remember, almost every large corporation has an in-house lawyer, and they have in-house paralegals. Common areas that you can look for, or common words you can look for, are like paralegal, legal secretary, and mediator. So different fields, if you're interested in private sector or you're not quite sure where to look or what is out there, you can obviously do real estate. That's probably the most popular that I found. Insurance, corporate, public defender's office, judicial, healthcare. That's actually becoming probably the fastest growing area is in healthcare paralegals, and then education. Other places you can look, when I say government, I am talking local, federal, and state government. Local, and I am not talking about the district attorney. I'm not talking about the public defender's office. I am talking the city has a lawyer. An example is Commerce's city lawyer for a long time. I don't know if he's still the city lawyer, was Jay Garrick. He was the city lawyer for a long time. So he represented the city and its interest. Every major city has at least one, if not multiple businesses. We're talking private industry, depending on how large they are. Legislative assistant, that's probably a lot of places that people don't think, is human resources, compliance, and then law enforcement in general. Further education is always an option. You can go to law school. You can also get a master's in law. Medical school, that's the one that I didn't realize was growing so quickly. Medical school is a really good option for people. Becoming a licensed practitioner and counselor, and then technical teaching. So what you're doing and what are recruiters looking at? Well, they're looking at job experience. They're looking at, are you a cultural fit? Cover letters, the prestige of your college, and then your GPA. I actually had employers say that they would rather somebody with a 2.75 GPA and 5 years work experience than somebody with a 4.0 and no work experience. What do they want to see when they're looking at you? They want to see resume tailoring. Skill sets at the top. They want to see addressed to the hiring managers. And if you have links, portfolios, or websites, they want you to provide the links. Do not make them go hunt for them. So let's talk about your resume and cover letters. So here's some facts about your resume and cover letters. The average time that a recruiter spends, it says 5 to 7 seconds. I've actually also read 3 to 7 seconds. 76% of resumes are immediately discarded for an unprofessional email. If you still have the Star Girl 86, let's get rid of that. 88% are rejected when you include a picture. 75% of applicants are rejected by the ATS system, which we'll go in more detail about. 68% will look at your Facebook. 93% will look at your social media profile of some kind. That means your Instagram, your TikToks, Facebook. 89% of recruiters have said they've hired somebody through LinkedIn. 36.6 million people found a job through LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. So let's talk about the ATS system. ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System. 66% of employers are using them now. And this is basically a computer program that goes through your resume and says, how do your skills match up with the job description? It can be used to automate interview scheduling, screen candidates by using keywords. It started to expand into video interviews, background checks, social media checks. I'll tell you, 98% of Fortune 500 companies are using it, 66% of large companies, and 35% of small companies. So here's an example of how this can affect you. And I learned this weekend, which is why I'm sharing it. It's gotten so specific that they're telling us no longer to send resumes as PDFs any longer because a computer system can't read a PDF all the time. And you don't use bullets, you use dashes. If an ATS system reads a bullet, it reads it and translates it to Spanish and then tries to read your resume in Spanish. And since most people's resume is written in English, now it looks like you've misspelled everything. So don't do that. That was a new one on me. So this is kind of what the employer sees when they do the ATS tracking system? What's the rating of them? So this guy's got 4, so this is almost guaranteed a contact. That he's got 4 stars versus the guys who don't have any stars, or maybe only has 2 stars. Here's another example of one. So this is the word that was used throughout the resume or throughout the job description. And how often did it show up in the resume? Well, it was used in the job description 5 times, but it didn't show up at all in the resume. Field service, 3 and 3. Troubleshooting, 1 and 3. So it kind of gives you the weight of how important something is. The more you see it in the job description, the more it needs to be on your resume. So these are, like I said, I found this out about bullets and dashes this weekend. So these are a little out of date, so I got to go back and update them. But for the most part, these will pass depending on the ATS tracking system now. Columns are now becoming out of date because the ATS tracking system cannot always read this correctly. I still go by that this is the most usable resume. Kind of giving you an example. These resumes right here specifically are really good if you're handing it to somebody. So an example is you're at an event and you're giving your resume out. These resumes are okay to give to a recruiter because they are going in a person's hands. These resumes, however, are no longer good for ATS tracking systems. This one, the things I'm going to go in and change is the bullets. Everything else is fine. It can read it just fine, but just changing it to the bullets. From the bullets. So what has to be on your resume? First of all, you have to have your contact information, which is up here, your skills, your education, and your experience. Contact information should be obvious. Keep your sentences concise, very short to the point. Tailor your resume with the key phrases that you find in your job descriptions. After you have these 4 sections, you can go into related experience. So that's more like, this might be beneficial in this job. Maybe if you're going into family law, you did a job that helped take care of children. Well, it's not direct help, but it could potentially help. Awards, organizations, related projects, related classes. When you put related classes, don't put like PLGL 413. You need to go to work compensation, civic law. Be specific in what you took. So resume no-nos. If it's a domestic resume, remove your picture. Remove the statement references on request. Don't include that anymore. Personal information. When I say personal information, I'm talking like your date of birth, your gender, your identifications. So let's talk about something that I was going to talk about later, but I actually going to bring it up here, and that is pronouns. I am seeing a trend that in your contact information, you're also including your pronouns. It really is going to depend. In most cases, I tell people to lean towards the conservative area. Unless you know 100% that the firm you're applying for is a liberal or moderate firm, lean towards assume conservative. I don't personally have a problem with you putting your pronouns on it. I think it's useful. Just be aware of who's going to see the resume. That also applies when you're addressing in your cover letter. Don't assume somebody's pronouns. When you're doing your cover letter, it is absolutely okay to use they, them, their. If you can avoid using a gender at all, I would. Just because you don't know who's reading it. You cannot make assumptions by a name. So personal information, that's up to you. Hobbies, and don't mislead your employers, especially in the paralegal field. You are in a very small field. Please don't mislead them. So contact information, your font should be Times Roman numeral, Arial, Calibri. The reason you choose these 3 is because they can be read by every computer. I will tell you Times Roman is technically smaller than Arial and Calibri. If you need to fill up space, use these 2. If you need more space, use Times Roman. Name should be no bigger than 16. That does not mean it has to be 16. It can be smaller. Email, phone should be no bigger than 14. The body, no smaller than 10, no larger than 12. If you have a LinkedIn, make sure it's complete. Don't use the 15 character link to your LinkedIn. Go in, and even if you can't edit it in LinkedIn, use like bit.ly to shorten your link. Have 1 email and 1 phone number you check regularly. Skills. This is set up in columns, and this is okay to use in columns. When we're talking about your column, don't have your columns on your resume. We're talking about 2 columns in general, like this. This is not. This is okay. Because, and the other thing is, don't set this up in tables. Do not have tables on your resume. Have them in columns. The only thing, again, I would change is I'm no longer going to be using bullets. I'll be using dashes from now on. When you do it this way, this is individual skilling. When you do it like this is called grouping. Both is acceptable. When you group, you have 1 skill and then you have specifics behind it. So you might have leadership. And what skills make up your leadership skills? Well, conflict management, project management, any of that can lead towards your skills. If you know your computer systems, you have Adobe, Microsoft, Casefly, I think is what it's called. All of those go under your computer programs, that kind of stuff. Try to balance your hard skills and your soft skills. So your hard skills are anything that's measurable, and soft skills can't be measured. So an example of a hard skill is like a foreign language. Here's the big thing about foreign languages. To be fluent, you have to be able to speak it, read it, write it, and translate it. If you can't do all four of those, you're not fluent. But that doesn't mean you don't put it on your resume. You tell them specifically what you can do. I can speak Spanish. I can read Spanish. If you can do multiple, I can read and speak Spanish. But if you can't write it or translate it for somebody else, you can't be fluent. Try to avoid obvious software like Word and PowerPoint. It's okay to have Microsoft Office Suite, but if you're individualizing your programs, it's better to have Access, Excel, and Outlook. Skills your field specifically is looking for, well, obviously paralegal, drafting, litigation, calendaring, legal documents, legal research, legal assistance, depositions, Outlook, and database. So when you do your education, it's newest to oldest. If you haven't graduated, it's expected, and then the month of the date. So like this. Expected July 2019. You either have a bachelor's of science or a bachelor's of arts. That is your degree. Your major is paralegal. If you have a minor, it goes under it. So in this case, most of you will probably end up with something very similar. It'll be a bachelor's of science and paralegal studies, expected December 2021, 2022 for you guys, May 2022. You're having a minor in general business, poli-sci, history, Texas A&M University Commerce, and GPAs. If it's a 3.0 or better, you can include a GPA. Otherwise, I just leave it off, and I don't put Commerce Texas unless I'm going abroad, because this kind of speaks for itself for most people. It's okay to leave the city, so don't worry, you're not breaking any rules. Experience, again, you list new to oldest, you include the company, the job location, the job title, and the time you were there, okay? And 3 to 5, big thing is internships are considered experience. Please use them. And try to avoid repeating skills. So if you did want a job here, don't include it here, because you've already explained you've got that skill. Showing promotion. So I actually used my own. List newest to oldest. Put the company at the top. So in this case, I put the Texas A&M University system, because my promotions actually go through the entire system. January 28, 2018 to present. In commerce alone, I started as a career coach, then became the lead career coach, and then I became an assistant director. Each of my job duties builds on my last one. So when I started, I was meeting with students, reviewing resumes and cover letters, and getting approximately 10 presentations a semester. And then I started supervising student workers. I still did all this, but I added duties. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to layer it. Related experience can be organizations, volunteer work. I want you to use them as if they were a job. You see, here's the organization the student had, and then the job title, the time they were there, and then their duties. Here's the big thing about your student organization. Again, remember what field you're going into. This tends to be a very conservative field. When in doubt, leave it out. If you think that it can cost you a job and it's not super important to you, don't include it. It's okay. Nobody's going to care. Now, I say that if it is super important to you, you may want to keep it in, because do you want to work somewhere where that is frowned upon? Being part of that organization would be frowned upon. You want to be comfortable where you are. You're going to spend more time there than you are going to be at your apartment. So, awards, related classes, and related projects. So when you do these, they have a deadline. All are listed most recent to least. Awards. Awards are really good for about 3 years, and then you want to take it off. The exception being, like, if you get paralegal of the year for Dallas, you can probably leave that on for 5 years. If you get paralegal of the state of Texas, okay, leave that on. Just leave it on. It's okay. Related classes, 5 years. You don't include it after that. You're expected to be able to use that skill by now. Related classes, make sure that they relate to the position. Don't randomly add, unless you're going for a paralegal position in accounting. Don't include you took accounting 2301. They're not going to care. Make sure your related projects are no older than 3 years. And the same with your related project, make sure it's applicable to the position you're applying for. So cover letters. 40% of employers want to see cover letters. The purpose is an opportunity to actually talk to the hiring manager. Computers, ATS tracking systems do not read cover letters. That's your first opportunity to actually talk to somebody. So the parts of a cover letter, the first paragraph is all about you. Tell them who you are, how you found their job, about the position that excites you, what skills do you bring this position. The next one is all about them. Outline why you're the best for this position, how your experience applied to this position. This is also a great time to problem solve. And then the third paragraph is wrap it up. This is in business format, and usually at the top of business format, you include your personal address and such. In this cover letter, you do not have to, because it's going to be addressed in your third paragraph. So if you're like, what do I talk about in my PowerPoint, in my cover letter? Well, you talk about the pain point. What is a pain point? A pain point is a problem that you've heard about in their field. This is really helpful when you're applying for a job off of a reference to somebody in the company. If they've told you something like, we need somebody who has an understanding of social justice, that's a pain point. You can talk about that. I've heard you need help with somebody who has experience helping people who have been wrongly accused. I have 6 months working with this. Match the tone of the company. Again, remember where you're applying, understand who that company is. Use your numbers. If you helped with 35 cases, put that down. If you tell a story, make it 3 sentences, introduce this problem, introduce this skill, and then what was the end results. I cannot tell you how many times I read stories that they tell me the beginning and the middle, but I don't get resolution. What happened in the end? Make them specific, avoid generic cover letters. Please spell check. Use Grammarly, get somebody else to read your letter. I'm not picky, but spell check your stuff. If you use hyperlinks, don't use more than 3 and keep it short, no longer than a page. So facts of your cover letter, you should always submit a cover letter unless it specifically said not to. You do not have to include your address in the header. Like I said earlier, your header and branding should match your resume. So all formatting should be the same. If you did your resume all in black, do this one all in black. Don't suddenly decide to change. Terms you can use is dear hiring committee opposed to whom it may concern. But if you can find out the person, that's the best way. And how do you do that? You can call HR, you can do a little bit of research. There are lots of ways, but it's best if you find out who's doing it. Font should be between 10 and 12. And sign your document. You can create a signature. Literally, you can write your name on a piece of paper, take a picture of it with your phone, and then remove the background. You've got a signature you can add to your cover letter. Avoid jargon. No emojis. No emojis. Be confident, not cocky, and there is a difference between the two. And be approachable. You can learn a skill, but you can't learn likability. 3 things to avoid. You address the letter to me, but just misspell my name or address me by the wrong pronouns. Again, try to avoid those. Also, don't misspell the company's name. I speak from experience as I accidentally sent the wrong cover letter to the wrong company and for a marketing position. And yeah, I have yet to live it down just because I happen to know the person who's getting the resumes and cover letters. 2, you forgot to talk about yourself. I see lots of cover letters where you talk about the company, but you forget that you're a person. They know about their company. They want to know about you and how you're going to help. 3 is you lied to them. You can almost kiss your career goodbye if in legal field if you've lied to them. So let's talk about your interview. Facts of an interview. Average interview is 40 minutes. 33% of interviews knew within the first 90 if they would hire the person. 70% said the person was dressed too fashionably or trendy. This is especially important to you guys. Remember, you're in a conservative field. You need to own a suit. If you do not own a suit and cannot afford one, come talk to me. We have the Lion Wardrobe. We have some really nice suits back there. I'm happy to help you get the clothes you need. 67% of interviewees didn't make eye contact. 55 were rejected due to how a candidate dressed, acted, or walked through the door. First 90 seconds. Your first impression makes you breaks you sometimes. 47% were rejected because they had little to no knowledge of the company. And I know this is important because recently I did do an interview where I must have misread something because I thought there were 15,000 students entering the freshman class and it was 15,000 students in the entire university. That is a big difference. It looked really bad. I knew it did. 38 were rejected because the quality of a voice or lack of smile. Now, I am of the I do not smile club. I just don't think about it. I can't help if you don't like my voice. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is I can make a conscious effort to eye contact. I can make a conscious effort to smile at people. Fix what you can't control. 33 were rejected for bad posture. I am notorious. Sit down, feet on the ground, sit up straight, back, shoulders back, and look engaged. You lean back when you're thinking about something. Lean forward when you're engaged. 26% were rejected due to their handshake style, 21 for crossing their arms in an interview, and I totally get that this is the hardest thing. So something that's surprising, 62% of employers were specifically looking at soft skills, 93 considered them essential to very important. HR managers say 60% of them are using the video interview, which is why your video interview will be in Zoom because it's 6 times faster. When we're harder to impress the men during an interview, and they are more likely to have higher expectations of an interviewee. Also, if you're in a group interview, do not assume the person sitting at the end is the department head. Most do not sit at the end. In-person interviews. Set up your travel plans. I went for an interview, and usually it takes me an hour to get to the location. It took me 3 hours. It's when I realized if I was doing the commute, I was going to be taking the train. Plan your travel and assume that something's going to go wrong. Try to be 15 minutes early. Plan what you're going to wear the day before. Don't spend 20, 40, 60 minutes trying to figure out what you wear is going to work. Plan it the day before and then just get dressed. Control your hands. I'm really bad about talking with my hands. I've gotten much better over the years. Beware how you sit. Connect with your interviewer. Address them. Look at them. Don't look at the table. Don't small talk just because you think you're going to bore them. And have either a paper or a pen or a tablet of some kind. Show that you're technology friendly. Online interviews. Use a computer, laptop, or tablet over the phone. I will tell you every time, use a computer. Use a computer. Use a computer. Wi-Fi is shady. That's what happened last Monday, is I was using a tablet and Wi-Fi is shady. Make sure you're in a lit area. Turn off your phone. Last week you heard my phone go off. I was in a situation that I had to have my phone on. 95% of the time I do turn my phone off. Turn off your notifications if nothing else. Make sure your background is clear to avoid and try to avoid using the blur because then they assume you're hiding something. Yeah, it's absolutely okay to use a virtual background. A lot of people do it, but don't just blur it. Either give it something, and this is actually a really good opportunity to show your personality a little bit. I'm pretty notorious for using the coffee shop background of my Zoom just because I like coffee and it's usually a talking point for people. So be in an empty room, and this includes your pets. Don't let your pets in your interview. Everybody sees it on like TikTok, and you see those YouTube videos where the interview is going on and a cat jumps in the middle of the screen. It's, oh, that's cute. No, it's not. Not when you're doing an interview. It's not considered cute. Have your notes on the screen. Do not have them where they're looking at the top of your head. They want to see your lovely faces. Please pull your head up. And then if you can, try to look in the camera, but don't be creepy about it. You know the people we're talking about. You've seen them in class where they're just staring at the camera. Don't stare at the camera. Prepping for an interview. Research the company. Google, I'm not joking when I say this. Google the most asked questions in a paralegal interview. They're the most asked questions for a reason. Tell a story when answering. What was the problem? What was your process to fix it? And what was the resolution? What was the resolution? Tell me the end of the story. Don't make me ask. Have the questions when you go in. If you're not sure, again, Google. Write down everyone's name for your thank you notes. And we'll go over thank you notes next. And then pre-write your thank you notes. The big part of this is have questions, whether it's, can you talk to me about the salary range? If you're interested in being a hybrid or remote worker, can you talk to me about the company's position on remote work or hybrid work? How often am I expected to be in the office? If it's a hybrid position, is once a week too much for you? Or is it you're going to be there once every 3 weeks? Thank you notes. You are going into a field that is a classic field. They want thank you notes. Make them personal. They can move you along. This shows that you're organized, polite, well-written, eager, and resourceful. It will make you memorable. I even now get comments on, oh, I just got your thank you note. Thank you so much. Think about what you've had, the company, and what your conversations were about your interview. Was there something that really stuck out to you? Did you talk to multiple people? Small firms should always get a handwritten note. Law firms, large firms, that depends on the environment. Business firms would much rather an email. But I will tell you, if you interview with people over the age of 40, go ahead and write the note. So what do you say? An example is, thank you so much for meeting with me today. It was a pleasure to learn about the opportunity, meet your team, discuss your firm. I especially enjoyed talking about blank. What was something that you talked about in the interview that was not mentioned anywhere? When I'm doing my interview, when I'm having conversations, I will write down names, and then immediately when something triggers, I'll write next to them. Like an example is me and 2 of the people who are interviewing me, what we listened to on the way coming into Dallas. I was telling them about the Spotify playlist that I listen to when I work out, that's Broadway musicals and done to the RPMs so that you stay on beat when you're walking. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. So in my thank you note, I included the QR code that went to those playlists. I look forward to hearing about your next steps in the hiring process, and don't hesitate to get in touch with me. This is also an opportunity to talk about anything that maybe you didn't feel like you got to talk about deeply, or you wanted to expand on some. And make sure you include your name. So let's talk about your mock interview. Today I sent out your request for mock interviews. Once you make your interview, you'll also get the access to the Zoom room and the job description. If you have problems opening it or anything, let me know. I'm happy to provide that. I want you to send me your resume. It's if you were going to apply for this job, what would your resume look like? And we'll go from there. Obviously, you guys can't ask me questions, but feel free to email me any questions you have. So a couple of events that we have coming up. Tuesday, the 25th, we have law school. We have schools like UT Austin, Boston College, a couple from the California. I think I have one from New York. We have about 30 schools coming. COSI networking event is on the 28th. Well, this is more targeted towards engineering and mathematics. My sister happens to be an engineer, and they have an in-house lawyer in their company. So remember, it doesn't have to be a big company. It has to be one that faces a lot of risk. College of Business, if you're interested in real estate law, accounting law, it's a great thing to go to. And then the just-in-time virtual career fair is December 6th. If you need me, this is my email. I'm happy to respond back. This is my office. It does best if you'll email me and let me know you're coming so I know to be in my office. Otherwise, it's a 50-50 chance whether I'm going to be there or not. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, again, let me know. Have a great day.